Morning children. So yesterday we have discussed about the major landforms. The major landforms. What are the major landforms? Mountains, plateaus, plains, desert. And today we are discussing about the rivers. We are going to discuss about the rivers. Major landforms. So this is the last topic. Rivers is the last topic. Rivers. The rivers are also known as a natural channels. Natural channels. So the rivers, they may carry the rainwater or they may carry the melted ice. The melted ice from the mountains. So the rivers from the mountains, firstly they start into the streams and they change into, when they flow together, flow forward. So they change as the river. So the mountains are the main source to originate the rivers. The mountains are the main source to originate the rivers. So some of the rivers, they carry the rainwater, so they do not continue throughout the year. But the rivers which originated from the mountains, they flow throughout the year. So the rivers are three types. The flow of the rivers, the course of the rivers are divided into three types. So the upper course, so it is also known as a end course. Next one is the middle course. So from the origination of the mountains to it leads to its mouth, the course of the river is divided into three. So from the originating place and by end of the part, that is reaching to the sea or the ocean, the large bodies. So from there to from here. So it has changed into three courses. It has divided into three courses. The course of the river, it has divided into three courses. So the upper course, the end course, the upper course is also known as the end course. The middle course is also known as a mature course. Then the lower course. The lower course is also known as a old course. The old course. Okay, now the upper course. What is the upper course? So the river which originates near the mountains. The river that originates the mountain, from the mountain, the flow of river from the mountains. So the flow of the river is very fast. Here the flow of the river is very fast. In the upper course, the flow of the river is very fast. The melted ice forms into streams, and the streams, they move very fast. So from here, the flow from the mountains, the flow of the river is very fast. So where the flow of the river is very fast, it is known as the upper course. Here the melted ice blocks, and they change into glaciers, and they forms into river. So where the flow of the river is fast, canyons. What are the canyons? The valleys. So near the valleys, the flow of the river is very fast near the valleys. So rapids. What is a rapids? The water that flows very fast on the rocks. The water that flows very fast on the rocks is known as a rapids. So the upper course. These are the examples for the upper course. The flow of the water is very fast on the rocks. The waterfall. So the waterfall falls from up. It falls down with a very force. From the high level. So it is known as a upper course. It is known as a upper course. So when it reaches to the ground, so example, the waterfall. The waterfall, when it falls from the upper, a height with a force, it is known as a upper course. So when it lands and pass towards, so it is a middle course. And it is a middle course. And when the river moves forward and reaches to the sea or the ocean, so it is known as the lower course. So okay, now children, understood na? The fastness. So in the upper course, the rivers where they are originated, there it is known as the upper course. It is known as the upper course. From the upper course, when they move forward, when they reach to the plains, it is known as a middle course. It is known as a middle. Here the fastness of the river slows down. And they makes the loops. So this is a upper course. So here this is upper course. So when they reach to the plains, here the fastness of the river slows down. So it is known as a middle course. In the middle course, the fastness of the river slows down. When they reach to the plains, and they forms the loops. So meanders. Forming of the loops is known as a meanders. What is that? Meanders. So example, the Ganga river, it forms the meanings in Allahabad and Varanasi. Understand that, children? Meanders. So when the river moves towards the forward, so when it reaches to forward, and when it joins to the sea or ocean, it is known as the lower course. Here the river carries the silt. It carries the silt in the lower course. It carries the silts before joining into the sea. It carries a much of silt and forms a delta. Before joining into a sea or the ocean, the river carries a much of silt. It is known as a delta. Sundarban delta is the highest delta. Sundarban delta is the highest delta before joining into the sea. So it is known as a mouth. So when the river going to join into the sea or ocean, it is known as a mouth. When the river join into a big sea or the ocean, it is known as a mouth. So before joining into the sea and ocean, the rivers carry the much of silt and mud. So it forms a delta. There it forms a delta. When it carries a much of silt, the silt forms into a delta. So the lower course. In the lower course, the river joins into a sea or the ocean. So when the place where the river joins to a sea or ocean is known as its mouth. Okay, now children. So lesson have been completed. So I am going to write the hard words. Open your classworks and write the hard words. So children, lesson is completed. Open your classworks. All the landforms we have discussed about all the landforms. So lesson is completed. What are the different landforms? What are they? Come on, children. Mountains, plateaus, plains, desert, rivers. So islands also. But in our textbook, they have they haven't discussed about the islands. So islands are also the landforms. The major landforms. Open your class book and write down the hard words. Mountains, peak. So the conical shape of a mountain is known as a peak, and the peak is also called as a summit. What it is called? Summit. The peak it is also known as a summit. Rockies, Andes. Andes is an example of South America, and Rockies is an example of North America. Mountains. Next, plateaus, tableland. The highland is known as a tableland. Next, Bolivian plateau, river. What is river? The land area, the plateau, the land area which is surrounded by the hills, and it do not get the rainfall. So which it get the very less rainfall. The land area that is surrounded by the hills and gets very less rainfall is known as a river. The land area which is surrounded by the hills and there it is a very less rainfall, so it is known as a river. Next, Deccan Plateau. So Deccan Plateau is present in our country. The middle part of country is known as the Deccan Plateau. Deccan Plateau. Colorado Plateau. Colorado Plateau is an example of North America. And the Bolivian Plateau. Bolivian Plateau is an example of South America. Next, canyons. The valleys, the deep valleys are known as a canyons, which has the steeps. The plateau which has a deep, the deep valley which has a steeps is known as a canyons. Next, desert. So Kalahari Desert, Sahara Desert. Sahara Desert, Sahara Desert, Kalahari Desert, Kalahari Desert are the examples of Africa. Are the examples of Africa. Great Sandy Desert, Great Victoria Desert, Victoria Desert, instead of Victoria Desert, Great Sandy Desert, Great Sandy Desert are the examples of Australia. Third desert, Arabian desert. Arabian desert are the examples of Asia. Next, Atacama desert, Patagonia desert are the examples of South America. Atacama desert, and Patagonia desert are the examples of South America. Next, rapids. 20. Rapids. What is rapids? The river that flows very fast on the stones, on the rocks, is known as a rapid. Next, meanders, forming the loops of the river. Meanders, forming the loops. The river which flows in the form of like this, forming the loops, is known as a meanders. What is it? Meanders. Next. Okay, now children, the hard words is completed. Once again, I will repeat the hard words. Mountains, peak, the conical shape of a mountain is known as a peak, or it is also called as a summit. Andes is an example of South America. Rockies is examples of North America. The mountains, these are the mountains, examples of South America and the North America. Tableland, the land area which is in the high level, so it is known as a tableland. So the plateaus are known as a tableland. Leeward, the land area which is surrounded by the hills and it gets very less rainfall. The area is known as a leeward. Deccan Plateau. So the central part of India is known as a Deccan Plateau. The central part of India is known as a Deccan Plateau. Colorado Plateau is example of South America. Bolivian Plateau is example of North America. Canyon, the valleys, the deep valleys are known as a canyon. Sahara Desert, Kalahari Desert are the examples of Africa. Great Victoria Desert, Great Sandy Desert are the examples of Australia. The examples of Australia. Thar Desert, Arabian Desert are the examples of Asia continent. Atacama Desert, Patagonia Desert are the examples of South America. Rapid, the river that flows very fast on the rocks is known as a rapid. Meanders, the river that forms a loop is known as a meanders. So Ganga is the example for forming the meanders. Okay, now children. So hard words is completed. Homework is learn and write the hard words 2 times. And also complete your classwork. Learn and write hard words. Hard words 2 times. Okay, now children.